A very good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us here on Rwanda Television News. We hope you had yourselves a very productive Tuesday. Now, these are our headlines. President Paul Kagame underscores the country's progress across various sectors of development over the past 30 years. Prime Minister Dr. Edward Ngirente has represented President Paul Kagame in the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye of Senegal. And on the international scene, a Nigerian swimmer has tried to raise awareness of mental health issues in Africa's most populous nation. Once again, we're very glad to have your company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, and my name is Martina Abera. On Tuesday afternoon at Urugwiro Village, President Paul Kagame received the Alliance for the Green Revolution in Africa Board Chair, His Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn, AGRA President Dr. Agnes Kalibata, and their delegation for discussions on the upcoming Africa Food System Summit and the progress of agriculture transformation on the continent. President Paul Kagame has reminded the country's youth that they have the responsibility of ensuring that Rwanda's development continues into the future, and that all that has been achieved in the last 30 years since the end of the genocide against the Tutsi is not lost. We have more on this report.
Rwanda's youth today are faced by different challenges that the young men and women that liberated the country 30 years ago had to contend with, but they are nevertheless just as important.
What
drives me to get out of bed is the desire to see my products exported. We see tags like Made in China and Made in Germany, so we too must have our own tag.
Things are not the same as they used to be in the past, when a child could look to an inheritance. Now your inheritance is the education you are given. Education helps young people to become wise and not waste their time doing things that do not help the country.
The achievements of the youths who saved their country all those years ago, however, have remained the main driving force behind the efforts of today's young men and women.
I wish to see young people taking over from older generations because they need to rest, having played their part. I therefore urge young people, work hard and stop second-guessing themselves.
Based on the heritage the RPF Inkotanyi have given us, we must strive to reach our destination. I believe over the last 30 years we have seen many lessons that if there is anything you need to achieve, most especially development, you must work for it. Those responsible for Rwanda's success have not been giving younger generations any illusions about the seriousness of the responsibilities they have inherited. For this country to have been able to rise up from the depth it had fallen to, and to have been able to achieve all it has to date, largely depends on people in that age group. Like we noted earlier, those sorts of objectives, even in the past, depended on that age group. That sort of responsibility never really goes away for young people, which is why our youth today must see themselves as the country's solutions instead of becoming its problems. The head of state also believes that all Rwandans, regardless of age, should understand their personal role in protecting the country's achievements while working with others to further them. Meanwhile, Rwanda's young people say they have enough good examples to show them what they must do moving forward.
Prime Minister Dr. Edward Ngirente has represented President Paul Kagame in the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye of Senegal.
Excellence, Monsieur Edouard Ngirente, Premier ministre de la République du Rwanda.
Most of the leaders that attended the swearing-in ceremony are from the African continent, and the newly sworn-in Senegalese president thanked his countrymen and women for the vote of confidence in his abilities and vowed to build upon the achievements of his predecessors to help the country to gain greater heights. As I address you today, I remember with sadness all who sacrificed for Senegal's democracy, those who were hurt and imprisoned. I will always remember those sacrifices and not betray them. I know that the results of the election show desire for change. By voting for me, the people of Senegal have shown that they desire a Senegal that is developing in an Africa that is developing. As we build a new Senegal, I will work tirelessly to preserve peace and unity for all people.
De construction d'un Sénégal nouveau.
The 44-year-old becomes Senegal's fifth president after winning last month's election with 54% of the vote. He will now serve a term of 5 years and will be eligible for election for a second term after that.
President Paul Kagame underscores the country's progress across various sectors of development over the past 30 years, which is also affirmed by local residents. This progress is attributed to citizen-centered leadership, reflecting Rwanda's commitment to inclusive growth and development. Adam Squizera has the report.
It has been 30 years since Rwanda emerged from the dark history of the genocide against Tutsi in 1994. In these 3 decades, every Rwandan demonstrates it as a resilience and unity, as symbols of the country's integrity and rebuilding efforts. After the genocide against Tutsi, Rwanda was left grappling with profound emotional, physical, and societal wounds. Havugimana Uwa Francine, a local entrepreneur operating her business in Kigali City, affirms that the rebuilding of the country would not have been possible without stable leadership.
On the
person's life, the country wouldn't die and the person would remain. People were dead in physical terms, but also in terms of economy. But now when you compare where a person came from and today, you literally see an obvious difference in terms of resilience, but also our good leadership played a vital role in this, because if it wasn't that good leadership, this wouldn't be possible.
In 1985, Rwanda's budget was 56 billion Rwandan francs, with foreign aid constituting over 90% of it. Fast forward to the 2018-2019 fiscal year, the budget soared to 2,443.5 trillion Rwandan francs. For the 2023-2024 fiscal year, Rwanda's budget surged to 5,030 trillion Rwandan francs, with 87% sourced from domestic and external resources and 13% of the external grants. Those involved in the investment sector express appreciation for the government's efforts in fostering its growth and facilitating an investor-friendly environment.
ariko iyo witegereje usanga leta hari ibyo ikora kugira ngo tubone ibyo dukenera bitaduhenze.
When you look clearly, the government makes a great contribution in subsidies. Most of the raw materials that we use are tax exempted on entry, and we pay taxes after production. All these are the measures taken by the government to support industries. One of the characteristics of a developed country is security, which serves as a cornerstone of its overall development. Despite occasional acts of violence and conflicts near Rwanda's borders with neighboring countries, residents demonstrate that this doesn't bother them. This confidence is largely attributed to the trust and assurance they have for the Rwandan military.
We don't have any problem because we live with our soldiers, whereas those so-called Wazalendo who want to destabilize us, our military are aware. We have a strong army to protect us.
President Paul Kagame emphasized that Rwanda's development is evident across various sectors, reflecting the ongoing efforts made in the country's rebuilding process over the last 30 years.
You
can take a look at pictures and compare the image of Rwanda in 1994 and the current one. Only those pictures can give the story of what happened. There was no life, no buildings, and now people are living together. No one is violated or be asked who they are, or be asked who are you, who is your father, or from which tribe. There is no one who is asked at school where they're coming from, nor at work. The country is developing. The journey itself explains the progress, and it shows that there is a speed towards achieving other things.
bikanakwereka ko hakiri umuvuduko ugana no ku bindi.
However, the head of state highlights the necessity of intensifying efforts in certain sectors, particularly in healthcare.
Twagira dute kugira ngo abantu babone izo service hano.
Sometimes they even ask those who are together in leadership, how comes this person and this one get to seek healthcare abroad and spend money there? Then what can we do so that those people can find such services here? Some would go to Kenya, others to South Africa. So do you mean whenever I'm sick I will need to seek healthcare in India? Why can't we be able to cure that illness here? Statistics from Rwanda Development Board (RDB) underscores that country's remarkable growth in tourism sector over the past 30 years. In 2022, Rwanda welcomed over 1 million visitors and generated nearly $445 million in tourism revenue. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
Thank you, Adams, for that report. The Inspector General of Police, Felix Namuhoranye, on Tuesday received the United Nations Police Advisor, Police Commissioner Faisal Shakar, at the Rwanda National Police General Headquarters in Katiru. Police Commissioner Shakar and his delegation, including the Chief of Recruitment and Selection and the Chief of Staff for the UN mission in South Sudan, are in Rwanda to discuss further partnership in peace operations. Rwanda, which started its peacekeeping operations in 2005, is currently the leading police contributor to the UN peace operations with the total strength of 1,133 peacekeepers and the leading contributor of female police peacekeepers. The police peacekeepers are deployed in South Sudan, Central African Republic, Abyei, Haiti, as well as professional posts in CAR, Head of Police Component, and New York. IGP Namuhoranye, during the meeting, thanked Police Commissioner Shakar for visiting Rwanda to exchange ideas and share experiences on peace support operations. He added that Rwanda remains committed to contribute towards protection of civilians in danger wherever and whenever required, either under the UN flag or bilateral arrangements like in Cabo Delgado region in Mozambique, where Rwandan security forces are engaged in counter-terrorism operations. Police Commissioner Shakar lauded Rwanda's transformation process to rise out of the ashes of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. He further thanked Rwanda's contribution to international peace, and particularly for embracing the global call to deploy women into international peace duties. Rwanda maintains a female-dominated formed police unit contingent under the UN mission in South Sudan. He pointed out that the environment in UN missions is becoming extremely challenging in terms of safety and security, which should be kept under guard, especially during pre-employment training. Commissioner Shakar further said that as policing becomes more high-tech, the UN is also shifting to focus on use of technology as well as welcoming specialized units to dealing with the evolving mission challenges. The UN police chief and his delegation will also visit the police training school, PTS Gishari, which hosts the peacekeeping pre-deployment training center and counter-terrorism training centers. Financial experts have been noting that commercial bank mergers in Rwanda have been proving effective, increasing the capacity of the financial sector to more effectively contributing to the country's development. We have more on this report.
Investors in Rwanda, both nationals and foreigners, agree that commercial bank mergers are helping to address an important challenge when it comes to the country's development and large-scale projects, which is effective financing.
So if you consider just the sector of construction, it is estimated that about 20,000 houses are needed every year in Kigali. Just assume that we take only 1,000. The financial need of 1,000 houses constructed at possibly like 20 million per house would be something like 20 billion. This is huge. You know, if banks don't pool their resources together, they would be unable to finance this sector.
One commercial bank here in Rwanda, but apparently the amount that I was looking for, I was asking, was kind of bigger than the bank itself. So I had to shift to another bank, another commercial bank, who was actually bigger. and it took me like less than a month to get the money that I was looking for, I was asking. So I think this thing of combining two banks, it helps actually us investors to get money easily, loans easily. So it's a good thing, to be honest with you. With another commercial bank who was kind of small, so the amount that I was looking for, I was asking, was big. So for them, they have like a maximum that they can't go beyond. So for us, that we wanted more than their maximum. So that's why we had to shift to another bank to get the loan.
Financial experts agree that when mergers are non-existent, the implementation of major projects becomes very difficult.
In as far as private investments are concerned, for example, telecommunication companies, these power plants, road construction and all these. If these are businesses managed by private businesses or private companies, they can borrow from commercial banks. These are big projects, and even payment, of course, they require a lot of capital, and even the payment becomes difficult because they take long to be completed. But at the same time, commercial banks can come together in what we call syndicated lending. So if, for example, a bank like BK or EcoBank or I&M or Equity, one bank cannot manage to finance a very big project, there is a possibility that those banks can come together. They can come maybe if one company needs around 100 million USD, 10 banks can come together, each bank may contribute 10 million and then they finance the same project.
Officials at the Central Bank of Rwanda stress that merging commercial banks, when done right, provides solutions and helps to improve a country's financial sector in many ways.
Equity mbere ku bwayo ntabwo ashobora gutanga umwenda urenga miliyoni za 18 z'amadolari cyangwa reka tuvuge miliyari 20 z'amanyarwanda.
Before, Equity on its own could not provide a loan bigger than 18 million US dollars, around 20 billion Rwandan francs, while Bank was unable to provide more than 12 billion Rwandan francs for one project. And now, as a merged entity, they are able to provide more than 30 billion Rwandan francs for a single project. That new bank is therefore far more capable of helping our country to develop. Also, as a bigger bank, they can invest more in technology and significantly improve their services and reach more clients. There is no doubt that these mergers are helping banks, while at the same time increasing competition, because we have more bigger banks and there are not so few as to form cartels and take advantage of the general public. Last year, loans in the financial sector decreased to 16.06%, down from 16.38% in 2022, while savings went up 9.68% from 7.66%.
The Senate has called upon relevant institutions to enact reforms in epidemic fighting strategies, emphasizing heightened focus on sanitation and hygiene initiatives. Additionally, there is a pressing need to educate and empower young individuals in preventing HIV and AIDS, especially considering the alarming rise in new cases among this demographic. Olive Nete has the report.
In the report of the Committee on Social Affairs and Human Rights, on matters regarding treatment and prevention of epidemic diseases, various problems were identified, including the lack of enough infrastructure and medical equipment, as some of the health centers do not have isolation rooms for patients with symptoms of these diseases, insufficient ambulances, low capacity of laboratories, and more. Another issue revealed include the issue of sanitation and hygiene, where measures previously taken to establish sinks, you find that some of the sinks are broken, others have no running water. Adri Umuhire, the president of the Committee on Social Affairs and Human Rights, explains that one of the pressing issues also revealed is the poor performance and use of rooms dedicated to serve the youth at health centers. Even though dedicated youth rooms exist within health centers, their functionality is limited. These health centers, often small in size, utilize these rooms only once a week, with the space serving other treatment activities on alternate days. This limited availability of youth services is a significant issue, as the demand for these services far exceeds their current provision. Moreover, health personnel responsible for delivering education and services to young people often juggle multiple responsibilities, further hindering consistent service delivery. As the committee, we recognize the value of youth room package and policy. However, the actual services provided are insufficient. Additionally, the number of individuals benefiting from these services is disproportionately low compared to the vast number of young people. Furthermore, our task to provide these services at schools for young people, yet this crucial aspect remains unaddressed due to competing responsibilities. Especially with regard to the HIV/AIDS epidemic, it appears that the measures put in place by the government to combat it have produced tangible results in adults compared to young people, where the number of new infections among young people has increased by 35%. That is why some of these senators support that there should be reforms in the functioning and use of rooms dedicated to young people. Yes, youth rooms and centers should indeed operate daily to provide consistent support. However, it is important to recognize that addressing HIV/AIDS requires a multifaceted approach. Some senators have suggested establishing these rooms within schools, a proposal I approve. Even if physical rooms within schools are not feasible, implementing scheduled programs on specific days or times for discussions on reproductive health and sexuality is essential. Furthermore, I support the idea of encouraging open communication within families about teen pregnancies and the responsibilities of both young boys and girls. Through collaborative efforts, we can ensure that our youth receive comprehensive information about HIV/AIDS and understand the consequences of unprotected sex. After presenting this report, the Senate approved 2 resolutions, which include the need to re-implement the hygiene and sanitation measures taken in order to prevent epidemics, as well as to improve the performance and use of rooms dedicated to serve the youth in order to reduce new cases of HIV/AIDS in young people. However, the senators requested that on the subject of youth rooms, it is appropriate to include all integrated programs aimed at helping young people to avoid epidemic diseases.
I agree that empowering young individuals is crucial in combating the surge of new HIV/AIDS cases among them. However, it's essential to incorporate comprehensive reproductive health education in addition to HIV/AIDS prevention efforts. These youth centers should provide a diverse range of materials and resources to address various aspects of reproductive health alongside HIV/AIDS awareness.
As for the culture of hygiene and sanitation, the senators requested that there should be various activities aimed at reminding people and raising awareness of the importance of hygiene as it was adopted during COVID-19 pandemic, because poor hygiene practices can lead to various epidemics. Olive Nete, RTV News.
On behalf of the news production team as well as the technical team, we would like to thank you very much for sticking with us on RTV News. Stay safe and have a great night.